Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Gamescript. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. The Vikings are 3-point favorites, and we got a 43.5-point total. We got a story of two Konami Code quarterbacks. We got Justin Fields over at the Chicago Bears. He started the season off slow, but started to come on before getting hurt, and then he came back last week, and he put up a nice game last week. And then we got Josh Dobbs, who started the season off as the Arizona Cardinals starting quarterback until Kyler Murray got back, and then he got traded over to the Minnesota Vikings, where he has been having some success. So two really good quarterbacks, and it's a situation where we have a tough pricing situation over on DraftKings with a lot of high-priced guys, so it's hard to get all the studs in. But I think Spread and I are going to figure out a way to do that, and we're going to have it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heatseeker Sports, and you're watching Gamescript. Today, we're going to be breaking down the Minnesota Vikings versus the Chicago Bears. We got Minnesota as 3-point favorites with a 43.5-point total, and it should be a pretty good game. We got a couple interesting offenses here to work with, and I'm joined today by Spread Astaire to break this down from a DraftKings Showdown's perspective. What's going on, Spread?
I am doing great. We just talked about the ups and downs of the weekend. I know that you did a good job there on the Dolphins Jets on Friday. We had some fun football action yesterday, of course. Both games were pretty good. I figured, the main game yesterday was the Bills and the Eagles. What a game. What a kick by Moody. And then, typical Chargers game, but we knew it was going to be close to the end. Will tonight be close to the end? We'll see, but I can't wait to dive in with you and find out the best way to build these lineups.
Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving overall. Like all the shows, I felt like gave pretty good advice on. And last night's show, like I had the right idea for it. I had the Chargers losing by multiple scores. I just didn't get the right combo of players. But, that's the way his showdown works, man. It's like there's a ton of different game scripts that can happen, and you never know which is going to be the right one. But we can look at these analytics and numbers and all these DraftKings points allowed and whatnot and try to figure it out. And Spread and I do a pretty good job on that. And if you hit the like button, I'm looking for 15 likes, and I'll put out a shorter video a little bit later on. And, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, almost to 200 subscribers. I think I need about like 4 or 5 left. So if you guys can hit that subscribe button, definitely appreciate that. And Spread, let's dive in, man. Like, what is your overall thinking on this game? What's your overview here?
Yeah, I mean, this should be a fun one for us here as these two teams take the field. I kind of like Minnesota. I'm not a believer in Chicago at all. And I think the only reason that Justin Fields is still out there is the idea, though, that he is that wild card because he could kind of go crazy and ruin all the best laid plans. But I was really excited about Minnesota adding Brian Flores in the offseason. And I feel that coaches like that really teach how to play the position, you're going to see a great improvement over the course of the season. And I feel like we're seeing that with Minnesota, who has some of the worst talent and started off as some of the worst defense in the league. I think, they could have been a real player here if they didn't get their quarterback hurt. Now, Josh Dobbs has been a great story. I'm not necessarily a big believer in him. I think there's a reason that he was traded a couple times already this season. But against the Bears defense, I definitely think that he's in play here. So I don't know if we have as many options as the last one we did, right, with that 49ers Seahawks, where both teams are just replete with weapons here. But I think we still have a fun way to go. I think the first way I'd like to start, though, is just probably the popular one, and that's the Vikings 4-2, 5-1 maybe, because I do believe the Vikings get the win here. What do you think? Do you think Chicago's live? Am I underestimating the monsters of the Midway?
I think you are, Spread. I'm on the opposite side as you today. I think
Okay.
I'm with you on Flores. I like what he's done with Minnesota's defense. And that's one of the key things that I'm kind of focused in on for this game today, because what do we know about Brian Flores' defense is they like to blitz a lot. And Justin Fields actually does better against the blitz, I think, than even just not getting blitzed. And he has a lot of success against the blitz. And I think that this is a unique matchup for him because the blitz has given a lot of people trouble against Minnesota recently. And I think it's a situation where Fields can actually benefit from it. And I think when we get into it a little bit, like we can go into all that stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely
Well, I'll tell you what, Simon, I didn't place a bet on Minnesota, so it shows you how convicted I am here. So
yeah,
let's have some fun and let's start with the Bears build.
sounds good to me, man.
It should be less popular because of the dog as well, right?
Well, let me check the numbers here real quick. Spread. Why don't you break down? It looks like Justin Jefferson is still on IR. So he's last report I heard, ESPN was saying that he's unlikely to play tonight. But why don't you break down your thoughts on Justin Fields here while I look up this information?
Yeah, so interesting with Fields here. One of the things that I think that when you talk about his success against the blitz, it's from a fantasy point perspective and not an actual success perspective. Because what happens is his passer rating goes down a little bit, but his rush yards go through the roof. Because when he doesn't have time to make the read and you're more athletic than everyone, that's why we go ahead and pencil in Fields here. Of course, DJ Moore was brought in to be that number one weapon, and Fields seems to take advantage of a lot more, right? That's fun, than Tyson Bagent did. So, of course, that's important to keep in mind. Interesting running back situation. We've done a Bears game before, right? And we've talked about Roschon Johnson, his ability to catch out of the backfield. Khalil Herbert, probably the better runner here from scrimmage, but Roschon, because we are playing PPR on DraftKings, does have that exciting upside here. And of course, he's only 4,500 as the captain, and then 3K there in a flex position for Roschon Johnson. So I think he's someone interesting to look at when we're talking about tight ends from the Bears. Cole Kmet is certainly boom or bust, but I could see why we would be interested in him tonight in a game where we don't have these quarterbacks with all these weapons, right? It feels like it's going to be funneled more to the top players on each team.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think Cole Kmet is definitely interesting to me. There's a lot of Minnesota guys that are interesting too. For the popular builds for tonight, it looks like I'm seeing a projection of around 34% on the Minnesota side, according to ETR. So 4-2 Minnesota builds are looking at about 34%. So the way to get different tonight seems to be the Chicago, which is good for me because I'm kind of leaning that way anyways. And I think Justin Fields, he's one of those quarterbacks that takes a little bit to get going. We saw that with him last year. We saw that with him this year. He started to get going, then he got hurt, and then all that, Tyler Bagent quarterback controversy, ridiculousness, like started coming out. And, I knew when Justin Fields came back that he was just going to be lights out in that first game back at the very least. And he ended up having a pretty good fantasy game. And I think he's going to continue it tonight against Minnesota. I think he's a guy with something to prove. And, Minnesota's been good against the quarterback so far this season, probably about middling. They're allowing 16 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. But I think along with Fields' ability to play against the blitz, I think that as far as a fantasy point perspective, I think that Fields can do pretty well. And Cole Kmet, one of his top targets there, like Spread was saying, they have a pretty middling matchup against Minnesota. Minnesota's allowing 13 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, but we've seen it when Fields locks on to Cole Kmet, like Cole Kmet scores touchdowns, and he's had some pretty big games, especially recently, and 23 DraftKings points and 18 DraftKings points back-to-back weeks a few weeks ago, but he hasn't done it. He's been quiet the last couple weeks, but that could give us an ownership advantage spread.
All right. So where do we want to start here?
So if we're going with the popular build first, I think from a captain perspective, for the whole slate, I think Fields has the highest raw points in general for the whole slate. And I think that you can do a Minnesota build while Fields is still in the captain spot. But who do you want to try to put Dobbs in the captain spot?
Oh, did you want to start with the Minnesota build?
Yeah, let's start with the chalkier type of setup. And let's do a Minnesota. Actually, I'll tell you what, spread. I'm gonna show what the optimizer is spitting out, and then we can go with a spread. What you like in the Minnesota build. So if we're starting out with the chalky optimizer build, they're putting Justin Fields in the captain. Then they're looking at let's see, we're getting in Dobbs and Addison. Dobbs and Addison, that's the main little stack there. And then we got Herbert and Kmet. So let's get Herbert and Cole Kmet in there. And then you can use your imagination for the final spot, but that's basically what a chalky lineup tonight will look like. Spread, what do you think of this type of build?
Let's just switch it out for Roschon right now, and then we'd have so much more flexibility there.
Yeah, you think for Herbert?
On the bottom. I mean, if you switch them out with Roschon, you're going to love where you land.
Let's see.
I think you got 4 good options there. 5, actually, arguably. Everywhere that you land there, if you switch Roschon out, because I can go Chandler, who's shown more bursts than Madison, Osborne, fine as a number 2, both kickers, both defenses, and Darnell Mooney, who has that upside here. So I like this start, and then where we land here, you can have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Of those 5, who do you think you like the best there in that range, or 6?
In that range, it kind of depends, because Ty Chandler we saw break out a little bit last week.
Yeah.
And he's had a couple good weeks in a row, but Madison is back, and I'm assuming back to full health. But Chandler looked good when he was getting more work. So I do like Chandler, but I just don't know what his work situation is going to be. And if he's going to be, more the guy that is playing in come from behind mode, or if he's going to be given more of an opportunity to be the lead back. We see like 10 attempts last week, 15 attempts versus New Orleans. I think New Orleans game is where Madison was out. Let's look at Madison and see what he had last week. Madison had 18 attempts. So Madison's still getting the bulk of that workload. But I do like Chandler, but let's see what the running game matchup looks like. It's looking like Chicago's given up 24 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, but Minnesota is a good run defense. I think that's a little bit, might be a little bit deceiving there. But what do you think there, spread?
Yeah, this is so tough for me because you never know here, but it's almost like the Jaylen Warren situation in Pittsburgh. Chandler looks so much better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that he started to get a chance to get going, I do like Osborne too, and I kind of like Osborne as a flyer.
You know what? Now that we're talking about it, I think I like Osborne more. Doesn't it feel safer?
He does feel safer. He hasn't gotten a lot of targets since Dobbs has come in, and we're looking at 2 targets each of the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, against Green Bay, he had like 10 targets, and he had 6 versus San Francisco. He was doing really good in a stretch there, but the last 2 weeks against Atlanta and Denver, he's kind of fallen off a cliff. And I don't know if that's because, like he has no chemistry with Dobbs, or if it's a game plan thing. But we know with Addison's kind of a smaller type of receiver, and he can get thrown off pretty good. at the if the corners bully him a little bit, and that would make Osborne interesting to me, like especially with who are we looking at for the wide receiver too? We're looking at basically Hockenson and Addison as the main targets in the.
And Hockenson is so much more popular now that Dobbs is back in. Cousins seem to have a much better connection with Osborne.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, spread. So let's clear this one out. Okay. Let's look at like how do you want to start in your Minnesota build?
Let's start with Hockenson.
I like it. Hockenson, okay. I'm pretty sure he has the best matchup too, which is great because he's a target that Dobbs likes. And Chicago's given up 15 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. I think they were giving up a pretty high completion percentage too, and touchdown rate. So I love Hockenson tonight, and I love him in the captain spot.
So this is fun. So let's go Hockenson, Dobbs.
Yep.
Then we run it back with Fields, Kmet. I know that's an expensive run back, but in my script, Minnesota gets that lead.
Yep.
Right, and Fields is playing from behind. And now we're just playing tight end ball. We're matching up with these linebackers. And the great thing about this build is it leaves you with 9,100 left. So I talked about this range that I think is going to decide it, right? From the Bears to Tyson Chandler. So now you get to have some fun on, let's see, this is a Vikings build, right?
Yes.
Let's go Vikings defense.
Vikings D.
That's gonna leaves you a little bit short there, but you can see how you have some fun here. Yeah. I was hoping to get Vikings kicker as well.
Gotcha.
On that build, you end up with the Bears kicker.
Yeah, I do like that Vikings kicker tonight, Joseph. I think.
Yeah, right. Doesn't that for 400 more?
Yeah.
Let's see. So Kmet is it 62?
He's been on a nice little tear lately too, and in 4 of the last 6 weeks, he's gotten over double-digit points, and then he had 9 points against Kansas City on top of it. So he's been on a nice little run, and this is the type of matchup. Division rivals, both are known as grinded out type of teams, and you get a situation where Greg Joseph, the kicker, they could be stalled in the red zone frequently, see them having trouble in the ball. Those are the type of situations where we like targeting the kickers. And I totally see Greg Joseph having a good night tonight.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I'm actually messing around with the Greg Joseph captain right now.
Yeah. Let's see, I don't hate that either, with the knowing that it's going to be probably a low scoring game. And 43.5 point total spread. Do you think it goes over or under that total?
Let me check my projections real quick. Lately they've been so close. Projections have not been helping me at all.
Yeah, I'm going to try something here. Why spreads? Looking at those projections, I'm going to try taking out Kmet and see about putting in. Let's see.
I have this game going over.
Over. Yeah. I like that. Let's see. I do like the over, especially with these 2 quarterbacks, because they're unpredictable. And let's see, Roschon. If we put in Roschon Johnson instead of Kmet, that leaves us with 7,900. You could put Kmet in there too, actually. Yeah, Roschon Johnson was one of those options that we could plug in, like to that final spot. So that's a pretty interesting build. Are you looking to do more 4-2 Minnesota spread tonight, or are you looking at 3-3?
I like 4-2. You know what I'm not going to do tonight that we have fun making, and like for 49ers, right? The ones that all cash for my 5-1s, but I don't like 5-1 tonight. Yeah, I want to go fairly balanced here.
Yeah. I think it's too close between these 2 teams. I think it's closer than it seems based on their records and how we've thought of Chicago for most of the year. I think once Justin Fields goes on a run where he starts doing well, I think, he has an ability to keep the games at least competitive and potentially high scoring. So I'm gonna clear this out real quick. I'm gonna try to do a Chicago build real quick, and then we can mess around with a few other builds. But let's put in Fields as the captain.
Okay.
I like Fields, and I like DJ Moore because he's the guy that Fields is going to target when he's under the blitz. And let's see, the Vikings are allowing 20 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, so that's perfect for DJ Moore. He does have the toughest matchup. Let's see. So if I'm putting DJ Moore in with him, I want to run it back with Dobbs at least and try to get Hockenson in there too. That's not going to leave me with much. I'm going to see if I can dump.
Yeah, so when I'm building, so you remember how on Thanksgiving they were just so kind with us.
Yeah.
This one you can't, and I think it's because the reason they did that on Thanksgiving was there's so many different options. I felt like each team had 3 good options that we wanted to target, but I don't feel like we have that today. So wait, this is the DJ Moore captain, right?
Yeah.
DJ Moore, we got Fields, Dobbs, Hockenson, and we're left with 4,200 total. So, Simon, but you know what? This is good because this forces us out of our comfort zone.
Right.
And we do know that a lot of these winning have had someone with 1,000 or less in these showdowns. And I noticed that on Thursday night as well. So when we're dumpster diving here, my favorite is Tunyon. Who do you like?
So Josh Oliver was interesting last week. He's not under 1,000, but he was getting targeted a decent amount versus Denver. And that was a game where I think, were you on that one with me, Spread, where we picked Hockenson as the captain?
No, and then I think that was Bobby.
Bobby, that's right. Yeah, and Oliver ended up coming in and getting all that work, taking all that work away from Hockenson. So, man, like Oliver, I don't hate because Dobbs showed that he would go to Oliver if Hockenson is being covered well. And I also like, where was he?
So then I think if you match Oliver, Addison's a must.
Yeah, that's true because we don't want to have both of those tight ends in there together. Right. This guy Tyler Scott is another guy. He was getting work towards the middle of the season, but he's another guy you could go to. But let's do what Spread. Get rid of Hockenson, and let's put in Oliver just to see what it gives us. That gives us like 5,300 per guy left. That leaves us in that same range that Spread was in a few minutes ago with his build. So I go to try to get four Bears in there, but Spread, maybe we try something with that. Maybe we're onto something with that Greg Joseph captain.
Yeah, do you want to do that one right now? I had some fun with that one.
Yeah, let's try that out. Let's see. Okay, so if we put Joseph in there, then we can get all those high-priced guys.
Yeah, which is why I think it's fun. And it's really do or die there, though, right? I mean, you're really living on the edge.
I think who would you like? It might limit us to either. Let's try to put Hockenson in there. And if we put more in there, that limits us to 1,900. And if we're in that 1,900 range, we got the option of like Scott, who I don't mind. And that's about it. That's about it.
So wait, you went Joseph, Fields, Dobbs, Moore, Hockenson?
Yeah.
All right. So the interesting thing here to go is do Addison instead of Hockenson or Madison instead of Hockenson.
I like Addison, I think, better than Madison.
I do too. I have not been impressed with them for someone that I was high on in best ball.
Yeah.
It's Tony Pollard all over again. Hey, the guy looks good in short bursts.
Yeah.
But you give him the full carry, and there's just nothing dynamic about him. So
I do like where it leaves us too, with that Oliver. I feel like when we're kind of put in these situations, at the very least, like it leaves us in a situation where we have a couple of options with Oliver and Powell, especially if we don't have Hockenson in there. So yeah, I mean, I do like this direction, but what do you think, Spread? Do you like having the Oliver Powell options, or are you kind of going to try to stay away from this direction?
I like it.
Yeah,
I think this is fun. It's definitely different. I mean, it's boom or bust.
right,
But for these contests, I'm fine with that. It doesn't
right,
cost me any more money if I end up in last place.
right, right.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm trying to see if we can try another way to go here. The slot receiver for Minnesota has a really good matchup. With Minnesota, with Chicago allowing 18 and a half DraftKings points a game to the slot receiver. That's KJ Osborne. So KJ Osborne, like I might bump him up a little bit tonight in my projections.
All right, let's start with an Osborne captain.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we go an Osborne captain here. He's at 84. We have plenty. If it's an Osborne captain, teams aren't going off.
Right.
I'm going to throw both defenses in.
Let's see, both defenses.
And you have plenty of money left.
With that, you can basically get whoever you want. Yeah, whoever you want with that. If you want to add in the last three spots, I kind of like if I have Osborne in there. If it's Osborne in there, I think you can have a shootout too, because when you're putting a cheap captain like that in there, you're trying to jam in as many studs as you can get at the same time. So if we put both those quarterbacks in there and DJ Moore, that leaves us with $5K left per guy. If we wanted to
wait, what did you do? You did both quarterbacks and then DJ Moore?
Yeah, I got both quarterbacks and DJ Moore along
with
Osborne.
10K left for the last two spots?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so many options here. This is a great start, Simon.
Yeah.
Because you can either go balanced and you pick two out of that middle range, or you can just pick a stud and add in like a Tanyan or who was the other guy that you like down low? Was it Oliver?
Let's see, Oliver and Powell.
So you throw Oliver in there, you got 7,400 left. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hate this build at all.
That's a way.
This is a fun start.
Yeah. That's the thing with these cheap captains, right? Now, if you're going to put a cheap captain in, you have to make sure that it's a guy that's kind of, first of all, he's got to be under the radar but have upside. And with Osborne, we see an 18-point game that he got against Green Bay. He's had last year. He had a few huge games. You remember that game? I think it was close to Thanksgiving last year. I can't remember who they were playing, but he ended up going off. Like the team that they were playing took a huge lead, and then Minnesota was in comeback mode for the rest of the game. They ended up having a huge comeback, and was instrumental in that comeback. And he just had a monster game. So, I mean, Osborne has shown the upside in the past. Like, I'm not going heavy on Osborne in the captain by any means, but I think it's an option if you're looking in this cheaper range to find a cheap captain to jam in more studs, because we are in one of those type of slates where the salary is going to be constraining today. So it's going to be tough to get in all the guys that you want to get in without putting in scrubs. So if you want to try to avoid the scrub route and the dumpster diving, like putting a mid-range guy in that captain spot is a good way to do that. And Osborne, maybe Komet's a guy that you could try in that captain spot.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, if you put Komet in there too, that leaves you with, the Bears D, Roshan Johnson, Oliver. So you got options, and you can probably swap out DJ Moore in a situation like that, if you wanted to put in Hockenson instead, who is actually cheaper than DJ Moore. I'm surprised by that. But 5,500 is what that leaves you with. That leaves you with Mooney, Santos, Vikings D. So I mean, there's a few good options here in that kind of that mid-range spread, where that Cole Kmet and KJ Osborne range, maybe even Darnell Mooney. I hate to even like say that name because he's burned us a couple times on these showdown slates, but Mooney is in that price range. I won't recommend him outright because he's just burned me a few times lately. But because of that, it probably makes him a good play, honestly, because that means he could go off at any time. Let's see what the slots are doing against Chicago. Slot receivers against Minnesota have been getting 18 DraftKings points a game, which makes Mooney, like in a decent matchup, but it's just the risk with Mooney. We don't know if he's going to get the targets or if he's going to get
he's going to either have the fire or the ice next to his name, right? The chances of him not having either, right, and just being a normal guy that reaches his projections seem pretty low to me.
Right. That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah. The fire and the ice next to his name. If we put in Herbert, if you wanted to put in Herbert, I think he's a little too expensive. No, that puts us at 4,600. If we wanted to do that, we have Santos as an option in both defenses and Roschon Johnson. So, I think that mid range is the way to go if you want to try to build a lineup that you feel good about without having to put in any of those guys that are super questionable. But you gotta try to look and see which of those mid-range guys that you like the most, which guy has the most upside, etc. Ty Chandler could be one of those guys. There's all sorts of these guys down here that could definitely, put up a decent game. But it's just
I like Chandler a lot. He seems to be the best running back in that room right now.
If we put Chandler in the captain, that leaves us 6,100 if we have this build. If you wanted to kind of take this core and just rotate captains and rotate that last spot, like in this situation, we have Osborne. We'd be leaving money on the table, but only $500. You have Mooney, Santos. So you see this tier of captain that you can plug in, and maybe it's one of those nights where you just kind of rotate the captain instead of rotating the flex. You know what I mean, Spread?
That's actually a great idea. And have we ever done that?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's take out Chandler. Who is our last member of our core here, like that we want to plug in there to see what kind of captains we can rotate? Do we like? Let's see. Do we like the Vikings D maybe?
I do.
Okay, so Spread.
I think we're gonna get some turnovers tonight, right?
Yeah. Okay. So if you had the Vikings D in there as your last member of this core, that puts you in position where you could rotate out Herbert, Cole Kmet. You could go down to Osborne and Mooney, like guys like that. So at least you with plenty of options if you want to try to rotate that captain, if you can figure out a really good way to go for your core. So I think that's an interesting way to go, and that's like it feels like that kind of night to me, Spread. But I could easily see it could easily be like any one of these studs blows away the competition being the captain.
Yeah, it's. Did you freeze up on me, Simon? All right, I think Simon froze up. Hopefully, I'm still recording, but I think he's got a great point here. Normally, we cycle that last spot, but by cycling the captains, we can take advantage of these. I mean, this is such a fun game tonight because, like I said, you can't get everything that you want, so you're going to have to make some of these tough decisions here. They didn't make it so easy. And as we continue to look at this, there's so much more fun ways to do it. So I know we can't do it on the screen right now, but I'm going to go ahead and just continue with this fun little build that we started. So, right, so I take Fields, Hockenson, Dobbs, and Joseph, and I continue with this really fun build here. And that's why this showdown is so fun, right? As we continue to look through the ways, it's really just about getting creative with our script and our ability to continue to manipulate that pricing here. So we went Fields, Hockenson, Dobbs, and our fourth was the kicker. So I got Joseph here. I got 14-8 left here, 7-4 per player, but I haven't done a captain yet. So it's not as nice as I think. So I'm going here in the middle. We've talked about Chandler here. Let me have some fun with a Vikings defensive captain. Wait, no, I'm going to put them in the captain here. Vikings defensive captain at 6'6". That leaves me with 8-2. I think Simon will be back here real soon.
Yeah.
I'm kind of messing around with the same build.
Okay.
And we'll see if you edit that out or just let it rock. But I'm using the same build. But see, right now you had the Vikings as the flex.
Yeah.
I threw them in the captain.
Okay.
And you have 8,200 left here.
Yeah. I like having 8,200. You got Addison.
Right. So it lands you right on Addison. Well, first of all, I don't think you have to leave money on the table with this build. Would you agree?
No.
How many people are starting with Vikings defense?
Right. Well, I think
you've got different already just by doing that.
Yeah. Here's the thing with the defense is when you put a guy in, when you put these cheap guys in, they may be 2 or 3% owned in the captain spot, but everybody is going to come to the same build if they're all just trying to jam in the studs. And it does help sometimes to leave some salary on the table when you got.
But I feel just by having the kicker, we got different.
Yeah, well, the kicker is that's different. Yeah.
So I'm fine not leaving. I think that when we go with this mid-range build where we're swapping captains, I don't want to leave money on the table where I feel if you have a Fields captain, a Dobbs captain, or a Hockenson captain, I don't necessarily just want to I don't want to just put whoever I land on, right?
Right.
Because then it just feels like your chances of being duped are really high here.
Right.
But the great part about this, just cycling these captains, I don't think I feel you can spend a little more, right, Simon? Right? We're doing it, right? We can spend all the money. No reason to save anything.
So all the money that we made on Thanksgiving spread, we're gonna be putting it into cycling these captains and get to mess around a little bit today.
And that's why I like playing the smaller contest, right?
Yeah. Those $3 are perfect for something like this because 20 lineup max, and if you cycle the captains like that, let's say you come up with 5 or 6 lineups based on that core where you're cycling the captains. Then you can swap out one of your flex plays and cycle the captains again. Like there's ways that you can use up that 20 lineups where you got like 4 or 5 variations of it, and you got like 4 or 5 lineups of each one.
Yeah, so I think this is a lot of fun here. The way we built it. Is there any other builds that you want to explore?
Let's see. I think overall my favorite guys on the slate tonight are going to be DJ Moore, going to be TJ Hockenson, Justin Fields, and Josh Dobbs. So it's basically all the studs, which is what puts me in this situation where I'm just like it's a little bit.
But you know what? Here's the thing. You think that that's so obvious, but you did leave out a couple, right? Because you left Jordan Addison out, and he's going to be popular.
Right.
So, you didn't really pick a running back. You left Komet out, who I haven't consumed any other content, but my guess is that for the people that just play pricing, it's the biggest misprice on the board, maybe.
Yeah, 6,200 is pretty cheap.
I understand because the floor is low, but it feels like in that price range, I mean, that we usually don't get that type of ceiling that Komet has in that price range. So I think a lot of people are going to like Komet too.
Yeah, I think trying to look and see if there's any other mispriced guys that really stand out. But yeah, I guess there really isn't apart from Komet. I think Komet is definitely the guy that stands out the most from a pricing perspective.
Yeah.
And they did a good job of pricing up all these other guys, because all the other like like the good options are pretty expensive, and it's hard to get salary relief today. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where the popular builds are going to be trying to jam in a stud in the captain and as many studs as you can get, and then they're going to go into this below 3K range where they see Roshan Johnson and Powell and Tyler Scott and guys like that. So it's going to be an interesting one, and we can get different with our cycling captains idea. And there's probably a few other ways, like 5-1 builds will be different. If you go 4-2 on the Chicago side, that'll get you different tonight. So yeah, just play around with it, and hopefully we gave you guys like some decent nuggets to work with some players here and get an idea of who your favorite plays on the slate are going to be. But Spread, do you have any final thoughts? Do you have a show going on today?
Yeah, I'll be jumping on, and we're gonna do the main NFL show. Well, let's see, it'll be up. It's on the Nuke the House channel. And then today, because I'm so busy, because I'm helping out at UPS. I think I told you I got that little part-time job to. I at my age, I really needed those benefits. I had a couple things that could have been pretty expensive. Long story short, I'm doing extra work, so we're just gonna throw in the NBA picks right at the end.
Cool.
So normally we do an NBA and an NFL show. Today it's going to be mainly NFL, and then at the very end we'll just give out the two. We're not going to go through the whole card. Just give out our NBA picks and why we like them. But it should be a lot of fun. And just follow me at Spread Astaire.
Cool. And that's over at Nuke the House, Spread?
At Nuke the House today, yeah. And then I'll be on FanSpeak tomorrow with Meg. And then of course, when you hear me talking about my projections, find those projections on the fanspeak.com page.
Awesome. Well, Spread, thanks for joining us. Get us to 15 likes on this video. I'll put out a shorter video a little later on when I had more time to dig into some of the research, and then also hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, and be having plenty more of this type of content coming up. It did really well during Thanksgiving, and hopefully we can keep it going. But that's it for this one, and I'll potentially see you guys later on tonight.